Welcome to another motivational video.
Hello everyone, it's Eliza McNamara here to talk to you today about the importance of not judging others. I was at the Ultimate Success Summit yesterday, and something that Richard Branson said really struck a chord with me. And that is that it's so important if you want to achieve things in your life, if you want to move forwards, if you want to achieve anything, you absolutely have to focus on your own growth and your own success and try not to criticize and judge others. And I say try not to because I think most people find this not impossible, but very, very, very challenging. I think it's one of the most challenging things, because if you're growing and you're improving and you're moving forwards and you're achieving all of these things, the first thing that tends to happen is your friends automatically change overnight. It feels like it's overnight. Like you go from having one group of friends to having a completely different set of friends. And you can take people with you, but I think most people on this kind of journey tend to have a complete transformation in that area. And I think that is the most challenging thing, because the more you focus on your own growth and your own success, the more you start to see things in other people. And people respond in one of two ways when you pull them up on these things. They'll either respond by thanking you and then growing and improving and changing their lives, or what tends to happen a lot of the time is they'll react negatively and they'll push that away. And it's not necessarily their fault, because you can help somebody to change and grow in an indirect way. You can lead by example for a start. That's one way you can help somebody. But there's also tactful ways of saying things, and then there are incorrect or untactful ways of saying things. And if you can help the people around you to grow and change and improve their lives in a tactful way, and that will help you to achieve so much, because the more you can enable yourself to draw that energy and that focus back to where you're going instead of focusing on where someone else is going, the more you'll move forward and the more you'll achieve what you want to achieve, and the happier you'll feel within yourself. Because I read this when I was 14 in this book called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra, and in it he talks about not judging others, and he says that energy you put into judging others is wasted, and it's a huge waste of energy. It's a humongous waste of energy. I don't think there's anything we can do in this life that is more wasteful of our energy than judging another person. And this realization, once it really hits you, once you really get it, it just transforms your life, because all of that energy that you were putting out into judging other people and concerning yourself with what other people were doing wrong can immediately be brought back to where you want to go and be put into what you want to achieve. And this doesn't mean that you don't help others. You still help others and you still contribute positive comments, and you still help people in their life, and you still let people know, and you pull them up if you care about them and they're close to you. You pull them up when they're doing something that you feel is not helping them with their growth, but at the same time you don't judge. It's really challenging. It's like once you get the hang of it, it flows, but initially when you first start expanding with this and helping the people around you, it's like you have an in-between stage. There's this period of extreme growth that you go through, and I think that how quickly you're able to make these changes depends on where the people around you are at. And I don't mean this in a judgmental way. I mean this in, how much they're willing to take on these lessons themselves and grow, because they could be at the lowest point of their life. They could be like what we would all consider to be unsuccessful. Whatever your definition of successful or unsuccessful is depends on your personal experiences. But see, the thing that happens is this experience that you have, this memory, this history of what success is in your mind will determine whether you believe that person can or cannot change. And your belief in them will also determine how far they think they can go as well. And this is something which determines the success of a lot of your friendships. Like, if you believe the people around you can change and you believe that they can transform themselves, then that will enable them to move forwards, and that will enable them to grow so much more. But you've also got to be honest with yourself as well, because some people don't want to change. They really don't want to change. They're in their little bubble and they're comfortable in there and they want to stay there. And no amount of education or knowledge or love will change that, because they just don't want to grow in that way. They just, like, they want to grow, but they're not that committed to it because they're just not ready. And I think accepting that is one of the hardest things for people who want to improve their lives. Accepting that some people that they have been close to will not and do not want to change. But you can't judge them for this. It's so important. You don't judge them for it. You don't condone them. You don't condemn them. You just allow them to be, and you accept that that's their path. And we're not necessarily all meant to be on the same path, obviously. Because if we were, it would be so boring. You know, that's what makes life interesting. That's what makes somebody like Richard Branson so amazing. Because if everyone was like Richard Branson, then Richard Branson wouldn't be Richard Branson, because it wouldn't mean anything, would it? Like, if we were all amazing singers and amazing entrepreneurs and amazingly good looking and amazingly fit, none of these things would mean anything. All of these things would mean absolutely nothing. So it's a wonderful thing, because then that means that we can actually feel special when we have a talent, because everyone's got at least one talent. I would say probably hundreds if they would actually take some time to think about what they're really good at. Like, most people don't tend to do that though. They don't tend to take the time to think about what they're really good at, because they get caught up in that treadmill of, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do that. And I think the quickest way to get yourself off that treadmill of what have I got to do today is to focus on your own success and your own growth. And I think the most challenging time comes when other people who you want to help, who you wish you could help, are criticising and judging you, especially when there's more than one of them. Like, if there seems to be like it could be your neighbours, or it could be your colleagues, or it could be people who you used to be close to. When that happens, that is the most challenging thing when it comes to not judging. Because if you can not judge them in that moment, if you can just accept that they're not there yet, and they don't get it, and they probably will one day, that will help them so much, because it will help you and it will help them, and then that energy which you're wasting automatically goes back to wherever you want to move it towards, and then other positive things are free to enter into your life. And one of the things that Deepak Chopra says is that you should have an exercise of going for an entire day without judging anything that occurs. And I realise this sounds really, really hard, and it is really hard. It's really challenging, but anything that is really worthwhile is going to be challenging initially, because you're not used to it. And anything you're not used to is going to be challenging. It's going to be, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? But once you get used to it, it becomes second nature. It's like, wow, I can't believe I was worried about that. I can't believe I was remotely concerned about doing that. Because you become conditioned into doing things once you've done them a few times. Like, you can become conditioned to not judge people. You can actually condition yourself to go through life not judging people. And yet, of course, there's going to be certain times in your life where something's going to come up and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I hate that person. But even me saying that is actually a very limiting belief. And it's a further example of why it's so important to not be hard on yourself, and then allow yourself to make those changes and not judge yourself, because you can't give something which you yourself have not got. So start by not judging yourself, start by not criticizing yourself, start by being nicer to yourself, and then you'll find that it's easier to not judge others.
Wish we were perfect. No one's perfect, even though I wish that I was perfect.